Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's Answer the Call. And this week is your thoughts on Star Citizen's roadmap update. This week we got the feared roadmap update that I was fearing for weeks and weeks now, where after their January meetings, they kind of decide what's a priority and what's not. And this week was kind of the sky is falling sort of roadmap update, where a lot of things were taken out, a lot of those things were temporarily removed, and not this in this particular situation, nothing was added yet, and yet being the key word here. We've seen previous roadmap updates like this in the past, even as early as 3.7, and things were added to replace a lot of the things that were removed. So I imagine we're going to see at least a small percentage of that from this roadmap. But before we really dive into it, let's just kind of show you what's been removed. FPS combat weapon types, NPC improvements, FPS cover usage, these are all AI improvements. The Asperia Prowler was moved from March down to 3.9. The dynamic mission system is the big one for me. Having that temporarily removed is a little bit disappointing. I think after seeing Tony Z's Quanta and dynamic economy stuff at CitizenCon, I definitely was excited to see whatever might be the first steps to that, which are this. We did have a few things added, like high-speed combat, new targeting methodology, new player interaction improvements, some ship AI collision avoidance, as well as surrendering, the ability to surrender, which I do find kind of interesting. But a lot of the major things that I was looking forward to were removed. Most importantly, the dynamic mission system, the economy app, commodity transfer timers. That would have been a big either positive or negative for cargo haulers, but I would have liked to see how it would have gone. And economy display terminals moved out, as well as repair, refuel, and restock kiosks, which was a funny excuse that I saw on Reddit. Was they're not fixing the bug for the repair, refuel issues in the current build because they're going to have the kiosks. Well, where are your kiosks now? They're gone. So yeah, a lot of things were removed, and I think I got a lot of the sky is falling from a lot of people. And in particular, I saw people that play this game day in and day out say, I think I'm going to put the game down now. This was the straw that broke the camel's back for some people. And I totally understand why. Now, my initial reaction was, this is bad. This is horrible. What are we going to do? What am I going to do for the next year on my stream? Guys, this kind of content, the podcast and week in review, this is just not placeholder necessarily, but it's not what I like to do. I really like making guides and diving deep into the mechanics of a video game and talking about it with people. And that's what I'm looking forward to the most. And a lot of the things that were coming in were kind of bringing sort of exciting elements of that for me, and they're now gone. So yeah, I'm disappointed, obviously. Now, I took a little break and thought about it more logically, and just a few months ago, something that I said on this show as well as in my week in review episodes was they're not going to develop this game until they have server meshing. Our game, and by develop this game, I mean, for me, this is what it means for me, is to make the game look more like an MMO than it does now. Now, I don't really know how to describe it. It's sort of sandboxy, it's sort of theme parky all at the same time, but it's not really an MMO. And a lot of the things that I see on the roadmap aren't leading towards an MMO at all for me. I don't know where Star Citizen's going by looking at the roadmap today. And the big thing that I want to say is we don't have server meshing yet. And I think until we get server meshing, we're really not going to see a lot of development in the direction of an MMO. But the other thing that I want to say is look at the roadmap that we're looking at. Okay? All it has here is 2 quarters. a lot of the rest of the year, we're not seeing what they have planned. I don't even think we're seeing a lot of what they have planned for 3.9 necessarily. I feel like there's some things that are probably going to come in a little bit later that we haven't seen yet. Now, that's why I want to kind of quell the sky is falling stuff, because we really don't know what the rest of the year's plans are. Now, it very well may be that a lot of those things are not something that you're interested in. Right? I think a lot of us we talked about on a previous Answer the Call just a little while ago, of what we need from you guys, what we need from CIG to make this game a game that we play regularly. A lot of the things that people mentioned, I don't see anywhere on this roadmap, right? But we may see it in 4.1 and 4.2. Who knows? It's just a little bit disappointing to see a lot of things fall off the roadmap and not a lot of things added. But I imagine we'll see a lot of things added through the rest of the year. So that's my thoughts on this. So let's go ahead and move away from that, and let's bring in our first caller here. His name is Maso. I see there's a lot of first-time callers on the show today, so very excited for that, and looking forward to talking to some people. Also, some slight fear that we might have somebody like say something stupid. So if you're watching this on YouTube and there's a random cut, maybe that's why. Maso, welcome to Answer the Call. How you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good.
All right.
I crawled my ass out of bed on a Sunday morning for
this. Sorry, we started late then. I got you up a little earlier. I was having a little too much fun.
No, I get up early for work. It's just
okay.
So I'm used to getting up early. I just have never managed to get up early enough on the weekend to catch one of these shows. And
Gotcha.
Actually, on that note, before we even jump into this, I just wanted to say thanks for doing this, because last episode you were mentioning that you felt like you didn't really know why you were even doing this anymore, because you had so few initial callers, and I just wanted to know that this is my first time catching this live, but I've watched every single episode on YouTube. So this is easily one of my favorite Star Citizen shows, and definitely appreciated. It's honestly you're one of the creators that kind of made me want to jump into streaming, even to get go. And I'm not trying to be a kiss ass or anything here. I just wanted you to know
hey, no
the show's
problem.
awesome, and it's a major thing for my week.
Sick, dude. Thanks. I really appreciate that. That's really cool of you. So you do stream and stuff? Are you streaming Star Citizen?
Yeah, I stream Star Citizen. I'm
Nice.
I'm brand new. I'm still in my path to affiliate or whatever. But
that's all good. Is your screen name Maso, M-A-S-O, just like this?
It's MasoCast. It's my Twitch handle here.
Cool.
In chat.
There you go. So MasoCast, K-A-S-T. So if you guys want to check him out and you're watching, go. Let's see this man get affiliate. That'd be cool. Okay. Seems like a nice guy.
I wasn't fishing for a call out.
I know,
but I appreciate it for sure.
Don't worry. I would tell you if it seemed like you were. I am not shy to tell people not to do that, but it was you seem like a nice guy, so why not? But yeah, so what are your?
I'm Canadian, that's why.
It figures. What are your thoughts on this? Well, let's start out before you even get into that. How long have you been a Star Citizen backer?
I've followed the project since 2012, but I backed in 2015. So I've seen.
You've been around. You've seen this happen before.
Yeah, and I play this game actively. I don't know what it is. I was making it. I was on the podcast or on the Astropub captain's table yesterday, and I kind of made a comment that my screen name is like a kind of a play on the word masochism or masochist.
Yeah. And
I don't know what it is. You have to be kind of a masochist to play Star Citizen this current incarnation.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it is though. I just like it, so I keep playing for some reason.
Okay. And with that said, what does this roadmap update mean to you? How did it make you feel initially after some thinking about it for a while? How do you feel now?
Well, honestly, the thing that just jumped out at me this morning was we're supposed to be into staggered development right now. So why is this shit popping in and out on on 3.9, I thought they were supposed to be, you know, like 3 to 4 months in to this already. Like, why?
Yeah.
So that's that's the first thing that kind of weirds me out with this. Like, I thought these guys were supposed to have been working on 3.9 for months now. Why are we seeing this then? You know what I mean? Like,
very weird, because yeah, our expectation, like that's probably the best point as to this is kind of bullshit. That our expectations based on what they said is this should not happen anymore. This should no longer be happening. A little thing out here and there, sure. Even if it's a major thing, like a dynamic mission system, right? Even if that major thing comes off the roadmap and we're disappointed, if it's one thing, that's fine. If it's the entire roadmap, that's a little bit weird.
Exactly. Like, I thought you guys were supposed to have been working on this whole time. And, you know, anyways, yeah. So that's kind of my first, I guess, complaint, concern, #concern.
Yeah, I mean, and it's a valid concern, I think, because it just opens up that this can continue to happen every single quarter, and
I guess
it's not okay.
And like, I felt like this for a while now, and I think it's pretty obvious that you know, when they initially put out this roadmap and they said it's an accurate representation of what's on their developer Jira. I think I mean, it's been pretty clear for a while now that is absolutely not the case. I think, and this is another thing we were kind of chatting about last night. I'm not surprised because of how vehemently and how much vitriol there is to any sort of change on the roadmap, because people don't understand that, you know, that development is very fluid.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just this just kind of like really hammered the final nail in there, so to speak. You know, like this roadmap that we're looking at is absolutely not, you know, an accurate representation of what they're actually working on, and that's just kind of frustrating. Yeah, and like I said, I mean, I think it's kind of in a way it's kind of our fault, the community's fault, because of the overreactions at any sorts of change. On the roadmap, it's obvious that the developers stepped back and put like more than a couple layers between their development Jira and you know, and what we're seeing here. But
the Carrick at CitizenCon, where people saw that table cover where Carrick coming in February, yet they hadn't updated the roadmap in weeks about it. That's not okay.
But yeah, at the same time, I mean, we lose our shit so easily, right? And that's you know, I think that's one of the reasons why we see this. But
that's also one thing that I want to point out is, do we all lose our shit? Or do we, like, I think a lot of people do, yes. But are those people that you're seeing are they a majority of the community playing, or are they the vocal majority, or are they the vocal minority that's just yelling really loud? I think it's probably number 3.
Yeah, I think so too. But the problem is that CIG seems to listen to that, you know, or they at least
whose fault is that?
Are influenced by. Well,
whose problem is that? That shouldn't be my problem. That's their problem. And they should probably stop. You know.
Well, at the same time, we are I mean, I suppose not so silent majority, but you know, so we bear some responsibility for for not weighing in on stuff like that. But man, I don't know about you, but I don't have the energy or the time to like sit down and counter every freaking basement warrior.
No.
who's rage posting on Spectrum. So but yeah, you're right, it is their fault. But anyways, those are like some of my initial reactions here, and that doesn't have really anything to do with the changes themselves. It's just weird to me because
the amount of changes.
Yeah, this doesn't line up with what they've been telling us. You know, as far as how they're developing the game right now.
Yeah. And now that you've thought about it for a while, do your thoughts change at all, or?
On what we just talked about, no, they absolutely haven't changed there. I'm still weirded out that we're seeing these really, really large and drastic changes.
Well, what about
when
the
this
changes
patch is-
specifically?
the changes specifically?
Yeah.
Uh, well, there are some things I'm pretty bummed about, and like I want to focus my stream on like multi-crew stuff, because it was the multi-crew aspect of Star Citizen that really
That drew you
had
in.
me thinking, like, yeah, like just thinking, oh, that's so cool. Like there are so few games out there who've really done that, like large capital ship gameplay multiplayers, well. And definitely none that I've played. But so to see them kind of gut the expanded turret gunner roles and some of the stuff that was going to be kind of more multi-crew focused, that bums me out, because I was really looking forward to that personally. And then like as you touched on earlier, the economy stuff, the dynamic mission system, and the because I'm pretty economically focused, like the personal what did they call it, the personal economy page or whatever, the one where you could like really monitor your personal finances, transfer money to other players.
The accounting app.
Like accounting app. Yeah. That was the economy display terminals. Like that was all stuff I was pretty excited about too. So I was pretty bummed to see that go. But I think it was Gandora last night who pointed out that like these systems are big systems. It might seem like the accounting app is a small, simple thing, but the way, because he's a developer, and he described just how interconnected that seemingly simple system is to the economy system as a whole. That has to track all of these transactions going in and out, and in order to get those transactions in and out, it really it has to link directly into the economic system as they're developing. So that quantum system, essentially, that Tony Z was showing, and when he put it that way, I was like, oh, okay, I get it. So basically what we're seeing is these yeah, and the other thing he pointed out was like, there's no way, like you could just fudge it, but I mean they've been doing that, this entire time, and if you fudge it, it just means you're gonna have to redo it later when all the major systems are in place. So seeing them pulling these major things out, even though it seemed like kind of a minor thing, like a quality of life improvement, I think what we're seeing is them like illustrating that they are focusing on putting in all the systems, that these are going to plug into first, instead of releasing these little bits and pieces and then trying to plug them all in later.
Yeah.
And I thought that was kind of, when I look at, in fact, I think they even mentioned that they were the reason that the multi-crew stuff specifically left the roadmap was that they were planning on releasing it differently, not so much bits and pieces, but they wanted to bring more of those systems out in kind of an interconnected manner. And that made me feel a little bit better about it. Just kind of thinking that while these might be dropping out now,
everything says temporarily removed.
It does, yeah.
It always does, to be fair. And many things were temporarily removed that I've never seen again. But
so,
still,
exactly. And I think that what we're likely to see, or at least this was kind of the conclusion we came to last night, what we're likely to see is then these features and gameplay elements being kind of repackaged and implemented in a different and possibly less piecemeal manner. So that's maybe I'm being naive, but that's kind of what I'm hoping for now. You know what I mean? I'm hoping that them removing these accounting apps and removing the multi-crew stuff and the stuff that I was really excited for is them kind of rethinking and aiming to plug things in to the actual game systems, in such a way that they they can iterate on it, and they don't have to basically gut it and redo it when they implement their full and intended gameplay.
And to be fair, it's sort of impossible not to be naive in the situation that we're in unless you are in the trenches with CIG. I can't, like, they're attempting to do a game differently than anybody's ever done it. They're attempting to do things that a lot of games haven't done before. So no matter if you're a game developer or a software developer, a lot of the stuff that Star Citizen's doing most likely is something different than what you do. And it, coming from someone like myself who has no experience in this whatsoever, it's impossible not to be naive. Like, I do this show in general to try and become less naive every day. But it's still, I will always be to some level naive, and I can only go based off of what they tell us. And I can't trust what they tell us anymore when you see things like this. These are the moments where it's like the words that come out of your mouth are just, maybe at the time they were truth, but then somewhere in between things changed, and you decide that this is the best way to communicate to us. And that's another take that I'll have on this. And Maso, before I'll probably continue on with that take in between your call and the next. Before I let you go, because I am on a little bit of a time constraint. Do you want to have any? Is there any other thoughts that you had on this? Want to add to the conversation?
No, I think that's about that's about it. Like I said, the primary thing that I'm still kind of stuck on is like we first touched on. Like if you guys have been supposedly working on this upcoming patch for so long, why are we still seeing such drastic changes?
Yeah. So I saw in Twitch chat somebody mentioned this. Did you see the most recent Inside Star Citizen?
The most recent one where they were doing the art. Yeah, no, I don't usually pay much attention to the art-focused ones. Okay, well, I'll tell you, and if somebody else hasn't seen it yet, this is what they said. This is one of our biggest challenges yet. We are going to be working on the microtech moons, and we only have 1 quarter to do them. They've been on the 3.9 roadmap for more than 1 quarter. Shouldn't somebody have been working on them? Like, based on the way that you guys explain stuff to us, that's my understanding of it. So where is the communication? Like, and that's the it just kind of points out your point even more, is that there's some level of break in the communication there, where the things that they're saying are slightly different than what they're actually doing. Like, the microtech moons may have always been on the 3.9 roadmap. It may have always been the plan to do it in the 1 quarter, because they thought that that's what they're capable of doing. Yeah. Right? That could have very well been the plan, but the way they communicate it to us is a little bit different. So that was something that stuck out to me too at the time, was exactly what you thought was, hey, shouldn't they have been doing this since the last 3 months? This doesn't make any sense to me. But this may just be a way for them to push that pipeline into a 1 quarter type of thing. Like, hey, get this many things done in 1 quarter, and then during our next push into the Pyro system, this we'll know what you're capable of. That could be what's going on, but yeah. Maybe. I just I guess to close it out, if I could have one wish from CIG, I mean, besides like finish the game, it would be that they'd go back to a less filtered roadmap and just suck it up when people are raging because they're ignorant. I would rather see a more unfiltered day-to-day, like if things are moving all over the place, I would rather see it that way, because like I know that the development is fluid. I know that things are constantly shifting, and I would just rather see exactly what's going on. Like if you were always planning on doing the microtech moons in a quarter, fine. I want to see that. I'd really like to see a more or less filtered schedule. Okay. Personally,
I think that's somewhat fair, and I'll let you go here, Maso, actually, and then sure. I'll make this point. Thank you so much for your call, by the way. I really appreciate it, and welcome. Thanks for waking up early for me. It was a really good call. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on.
Of course. If I listened to every YouTube comment about me, and took it to heart the way it seems like CIG might take things to heart about the way people talk about them. I know it's a little bit different where they're a company and they need to have a certain way that people look at them, rather than oh, Star Citizen's a scam versus look at this beautiful game that is Star Citizen with all this potential. I think they want to be over here as much as possible. They still have to be able to take it. And you can't make content on the internet if you can't take the heat that you're going to get, because no matter what, you're going to get a lot of heat on it. And I think they've been really good about it to some aspects of, certain someone's saying certain things about them. But then when it comes from their actual community about being upset about their lack of communication or whatever, for whatever reason, they're not very good at taking it. It seems like, from that perspective, it's very odd. So they purposely don't say anything because they don't want to have the community get upset. That's not a good thing. I think that's, in my opinion, that's a negative thing. And yeah, it's a little bit of a bummer. And I was gonna say something earlier and I lost it. I had it at the tip of my tongue just now, about certain something that I wanted to add in between calls. Dang. It's not like a kid, like someone in chat saying it's like a kid wanting to tell their parents that they did something wrong, not wanting to tell them. But yeah, I'll say this because I'm not sure what I was gonna say. Now I remember. But before I go into that, let me quickly say this. If you're not comfortable calling in, you can tweet at me at SaltEMike and using the hashtag ATC17, and we'll bring those up on screen and show them here with you guys. So if you're not comfortable calling in, I will take a couple tweets today. So make sure you kind of at me and do that, and that should make it nice and easy. Now, what I did want to mention is there was a time where they pulled object container streaming off the roadmap. This was pre-Hurston. And what CIG did was the best thing I'd ever seen, and they never did it again. And I don't know why. The reason, I have no idea, but this was the best Star Citizen Live, or at the time it was around Reverse the Verse. Jared Huckabee and Tyler Witkin were the people on the show. No guests, nothing. They went down the list of the roadmap and talked about why things moved. And that's what Roadmap Roundup is supposed to be, but it doesn't do as good of a job as that. Right? That was one of the best things they did. One of the best things they did was when we have big elements like this happen, you put the roadmap out, you let the community react to it for an hour, and immediately a Star Citizen Live comes on. You have Disco Lando there, and you have another community manager there on a call or whatever. However you want to do it, you do it, and you explain what happened and why. And that's what needs to be there. That's just how I feel. I thought that was like the community was really up in arms about what happened, and everything calmed down after that. It's as simple as, instead of putting something out there and then reacting to the way the community reacts, it's very simple to sort of getting ahead of it and explaining with your words and having a back and forth with the Q&A portion of the show to allow for the community to understand more. I've been around this whole open development thing for 5-6 years now, and I still struggle with understanding it. And I think that that's not my stupidity necessarily. I am not the smartest person in the world, but I do think that that is somewhat on CIG for not doing the best job of communicating when game development acts like game development. Instead of saying it's game development, doing a little bit better job of explaining it would be amazing. And They've done it before, and I wish they just continued to do it again. Now, with that said, we'll bring in our next caller, and his name is very similar to my name, Michael91. Michael, how you doing? Welcome to Answer the Call, man.
Doing good. How are you, Mike?
I'm well. So, what were your? Let's start out with just like the last caller. What was your first? When did you back Star Citizen? How long have you been following the project?
So I first backed in 2013, so
Long
right
time
around
backer.
the beginning.
Okay,
Mhm.
cool. So now, with that said, you've been around for a while. You've seen this before. What are your thoughts on this?
I wasn't that disappointed, to be
Okay.
honest. I don't know if that's
Were you expecting
just
it?
because I've grown. Yeah, well, I think it I was expecting exactly. So I don't know if it's because of that or if I've just become more apathetic towards the project
Okay.
or what. But also looking at
Hmm.
I don't know how many of the features that they removed I really care about that much. I mean, there's a few big ones, but also a lot of them are kind of smaller features in my opinion, like weapons and stuff and different like cover mechanics, things that I'm okay with waiting on.
Yeah, they're not
Um,
essential, right? What did you think
yeah.
about the more essential things like dynamic mission system, accounting app, stuff like that?
hmm Um, I think it would have been better if we could see where it lands on the roadmap. I'd feel a lot better if I saw it was in like 4.0 or I don't know what's going to be in 4.1, but
That's
having them
really good.
completely gone, I, I is the biggest thing for me that I don't like. I mean, the same thing happened with salvage and things like that, and then we never see them. So I'm okay with waiting for things, but having them completely not knowing what's going on, where
Yeah,
they
yeah,
are on the roadmap is kind of the biggest thing that sucks, I think.
yeah. Even if they're temporarily removed, we want to see. I think that's a very, very valid point. Is that um, do you think? Okay, how about this? Would you have liked it better if they warned us that a lot of changes were coming, which I feel like they did, um,
Yeah, I
but
think that's exactly
but
what they did.
but didn't make this change until they already had 4.1 and 4.2 kind of figured out, and that a lot of these things may fall down the line somewhere, but they're not putting them on the roadmap because they haven't finalized what 4.1 and 4.2 will look like.
Mm.
That's the big
Well, I think
issue is they're really only telling, and Alicia Anna's saying this in Twitch chat, they're only telling part of the story. And that's
yeah.
why I think a lot of that freaking out happened.
Yeah, I think we will see a lot of that.
Okay.
I don't know if it'll be a week from now or when they're gonna post the final things,
Yeah.
but I think we will see a lot of the things land. But um, so maybe it will just be a week of not knowing and or 2 weeks or however long it will be, and that won't be too bad. But
Yeah.
um,
Because if that was the case, they wouldn't need to do the show that I want them to do. Then the little blurb on the roadmap roundup should be enough because it explains where it's gone, that it's gone for a reason, and where it ends up.
yeah.
And I like. Would you agree with me that I feel like um, anything planned in something like 3.9 should not fall so far back that it wouldn't be on the roadmap at all necessarily?
hmm
It seems like kind
But
of
then
a
again,
an issue with their planning if that happens.
yeah, then again, I think it's just a product of like when was 3.9 created? Like a year ago. So it's a product of it's like a year old, and then
Yeah.
not only that, but a lot of the features are just pushed the whole year, push anything that doesn't make it is pushed back, and then the last um, uh, quarter on the roadmap ends up having so many things that's one of the biggest reasons I expected so many things to go away is because like 3.8 was huge with features, and then obviously we got some of those and some of them we didn't, and then 3.9 as well.
Mm-hmm.
4.0 is a lot more. Um, tame with the things that they're showing us, and I think
Yeah.
that's maybe a better idea.
Mm-hmm. It's better to
But at the
continue to
same
add
time,
things throughout the quarter than continue to remove things. Might be their
yeah.
thought process here.
Then at the same time, you have people saying like, "Oh, we're not getting the full picture." So it comes down to I'm not even sure myself. They
Yeah.
want the roadmap to be, and I don't know if CIG does either. One part of me wants it to be like this macro perspective. Like I want to know just not really promises of what's going to come in what patch or what time, but I want to know like they want to do next and
Mm-hmm.
what is their vision for how things are going to kind of come trickle down to us, and what are the that they think are most important in just like a general sense.
Yeah, they
And
talk a lot
then,
about priorities, but they don't really say why
mhm,
something's a priority very often.
yeah,
Oh, like
and
why they would
it's
choose
probably
one thing over another.
yeah, that's true. Um, but then the other part of me like thinks that add anything to the roadmap unless they've at least like started on it and they know like okay, we've done the R&D, we know that this can work, this can happen, um, we can get it out at a certain time.
Yeah.
So I don't know like which side, because that's a big difference of roadmaps, which one would be best. And I think CIG is also playing around
With what works.
um, with what works.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Okay. I think that's
I
fair.
think what they've been, I feel like with the caves, how they didn't say anything about it. They kind of hinted, "Hey, we're working on this," but it wasn't on the roadmap until they knew.
Yeah.
I think that kind of approach might be good,
Yep.
but
Yeah, and then the only thing you're gonna have is people crying open development, by the way. And you know what? Uh fuck them. It's kind of how I feel. Like anybody that's gonna cry about that stuff, I think it's a better solution than um getting someone excited and then pulling out the rug from under them. I think it's way better
yeah,
to be like, hey, check this out, and that's it.
yeah. And
But
maybe there are
yeah,
better ways to be open than just the roadmap. Like with the caves, they were showing us, "Hey, look, we're working on this." They're showing it in the videos and
mm-hmm.
everything, and so
But
maybe that's they can find a balance
yeah, it's
with
being
that in the
open.
roadmap. But
Like they're being open and saying, hey, we're working on caves. Um, but they're not necessarily trying to set a date for it and get you upset or not. So I don't know. I think that's
mhm.
a pretty interesting solution, and you might be right that that's where they're going, because if you look at 4.0, it's pretty bare.
Mhm.
And I think we both think it won't be so bare come release of it. I mean, it still has the Horizon landing zone, which is a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
So we'll see if that thing sticks. But all right, Mike, I guess I'll let you go, and we'll go to the next caller, maybe a tweet, and I appreciate it, man. Good call.
Actually, there's
Go
one more thing
go
I
go
wanted to
go.
talk about. If
Rock and roll, yeah.
um, I
It
mean, some
sounded
of the
like you were
things that are
done. That's why I did
still
that.
no, like the roadmap.
Hold on, say it again because you broke up. Discord's just so people know, Discord's having some problems today. So I've been swapping around servers trying to keep it up, but you broke up a little bit there, Mike.
Okay. Uh, three
Actually,
point.
really breaking up. I'm gonna switch servers again. All right, go ahead and start again. Maybe it'll be a little bit better. It's not working at all now. Okay. Mike, can you hear me?
Hello?
Hey, Mike, can you hear me now? Yeah, that's rough. Kazu, you can hear me though, right?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Hmm.
Hello.
Hey, I hear you, Mike. You good now?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay,
Sorry,
yeah, it's all good. You sound clear
I
now.
think yeah, I think that was my end.
All right.
Um,
So go
so
for it.
I
Your
was
last point.
Yeah, well, 3.9 I think still is pretty full of features. We're gonna get a lot of like, particularly I think more bounty hunting stuff. Even
Mm-hmm.
though the Cutlass Blue left, and then the prison and everything. One thing that they
Surrender seems interesting.
um uh, particularly that it's like an NPC thing, because there's not really any ways that we interact that much with NPCs without besides killing them right now.
Yeah.
So that'll be interesting. And then how they would add that to sort of PvP maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things that caught my eye, I think, was the high speed combat, and maybe what that would mean for the mechanics, or what they're going to do with that. Because I think the flight mechanics for me are probably the biggest thing I'd like to see changed in the short term, and fixed for the game to be fun and playable, rather than them adding any new particular short term.
Yeah, I mean okay, so you broke up a little bit, so I'll try and piece together what you said. That the high speed combat element on 3.9, which I'll show on the screen real quick, is something that is kind of interesting to you because it's their take on what how they're going to fix the flight model and whatever issues people had with it. And I've kind of took a pretty good look at that too, and it's interesting, but it's also a little bit nerve-wracking that instead of making things a little bit less slidey, they're purposely trying to slow us down and punishing us, is what it seems like to me. It said chip systems will suffer the consequences of traveling at high speed, restricting some of the options that players will have at maximum velocity, creating a vulnerability that will push players into engagement at lower speeds. So instead of doing like an overhaul or changing the system, they're going to see how this works. And I think this is going to be a lot of back and forth testing over the next few quarters. I don't know. We'll have to see. Mike's gone though, so I don't know what happened. But yeah, Discord's definitely having a lot of issues. So regardless, Mike, thank you very much for the call. I apologize for any Discord issues. But we're going to bring on our next caller, and it's Finds the Loss. What's up, dude? Can you hear me okay, Finds? This is rough. No go for Finds. All right, Finds, we're gonna put you back in the queue, and hope that things get better here. Our next caller is Qualms. Qualms is muted, so Qualms, let me know if you can hear me, buddy.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can. Okay, perfect. So let's start out.
Hey.
Yeah, let's start out with how long have you been a backer, and then go ahead and talk about the roadmap.
So I'm following Star Citizen since 2012.
Okay.
And I'm a backer because one of my godchildren invited me a while ago since 2015.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the roadmap, since I'm a German, I usually only get the updates in the morning, so it's not Friday, but Saturday. So it's one of the things on a relaxing weekend, I like to do, opening up my iPad and looking what the roadmap update was. And to be quite honest, yesterday, my first thought was, what the...
You can curse.
Point. Yeah, what the fuck is going on there?
Yeah.
Seriously, it's and since I'm managing projects myself, especially R&D projects, for quite a while, Star Citizen is not only a game for me, which I love to play. It's a bit masochistic, but even I do. I love to look at to see what is happening there, and from the perspective of somebody who can be at the place. And this time is the first time where I'm a bit frightened, to be quite fair, Mike.
Yeah.
Because this can be multiple things, and maybe it's all the little storm in a water glass, and everything will be good. But it looks a lot like as if the whole thing is about to blow up in their faces. Because SaaS is a really complex thing, and it's awesome, and I really like the idea. I really like where they want to go, and but I think they glued and duct taped too much stuff together, and it starts to fall apart. And because maybe on the good side, maybe it means that they just take a step back and they roll out and look at it like, okay, we have to go more deeper and try to fix stuff. On the other hand, I'm always wondering why they don't go much more into the individual systems. I mean, you had the same problem today as I had yesterday, and that's when I hinted in the chat on Twitch, is with the refueling and the whole quantum drive. I mean, this is why do I have to hover since 2 patches on top of the pad? Why? I mean, this can't be that complicated to look into that one really in that part, because it worked before. So it must be something where they broke. And the whole quantum traveling is, I was doing missions, mainly delivery missions yesterday, just to get enough money to buy myself a Helix. And the time I had when the quantum system wanted to sort of let me travel to Crusader, or to Stanton, to the star and back again.
Yeah.
And I was like, why is he doing that? We didn't need to do that a while ago. And I think this is just
a bug that popped up.
Yeah. They come in, but on the other hand, I haven't seen them fixing so many of those over the last time. So my hope is that what actually happened is they said, okay, there's so much broken on the back end at the moment that especially when they look at the part of system they want to use in Squadron 42 as well, then they say, okay, we need to catch that now. So we kick off features and we try to focus on the back end part to get that part running. But it's communications wise, it's one of the typical CIG complete fails.
I don't think it's a complete fail, but it is. They definitely, based on like what they say versus what you actually have, I can see why you would say something like complete fail. Hey guys, medical gameplay is here. Quality of life over the next little bit, your game is going to be better to play. And then, obviously something like server-side OCS that touches every aspect of the game is going to cause a lot of issues. Now, the one question that I have for you, like, it should be fairly simple to fix. I don't understand. What if a lot of these bugs come out of it being a server-side OCS issue, and there's only so many network programmers that work there, and these might be the only people that can fix those bugs? And it's not like they can, pull this guy, that guy, and the other guy to fix them, where they might only have those few guys that we see on TV, on the videos every now and again. And those are the people that have to fix everything. Maybe that's what's taking so long.
Good point. Maybe my frustration sort of kicked out my reasoning there. Yeah. This is. I mean,
my initial reaction was yours. Like, this is insane. The known issues list has been this long for this long. Why? That's crazy. But it's normally not like that. That's why it feels crazy. But what's what was the monkey wrench that came in that made this patch so different? Server-side OCS. So maybe that's why. That's the idea that I have in my head thrown out there.
Oh, this would be the nicest one. Really, if the whole roadmap emptying and reordering is due to the reason that they said, okay, looking at the issues list, looking at the problems SSOCS is creating, well, we have to deal with that and let's move it out. The other thing where I'm wondering is communications wise again, why I think it's so bad is if that's the case, they could say it. There could be one little small paragraph on top of the the roadmap part, saying, "Okay, guys, we are moving this out temporarily. We are reordering. We are looking into getting part of the server-side OCS stuff which came up fixed, and you will see in the future we will put out a bit more task on that one."
Yeah.
And that brings me back what your first caller said is, I don't think that the roadmap is necessarily the real Jira output anymore.
No.
I'm pretty sure it was at the beginning. I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure it was.
I think it was too.
But now they
have a roadmap pipeline.
Yeah. Or a roadmap feature management in before, or something like this.
Yeah. In before somebody worked on a tool for this that could have been working on the actual game.
Yeah. I'm with you on one thing. I was really sad about the economy part going.
Of course. Yeah, that's a bummer.
Yeah, it's really a bummer. Like, okay, because I thought, well, maybe they're more into that one. And on the other hand, I mean, what?
Dude, the day before the roadmap got it taken off, the monthly report said how well it was integrating into the game.
Oh, I haven't read that. I have to look that up.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's right towards the top. It's awesome, but that's why it's, a temporarily removed.
Yeah.
That's why I have less of a I'm not freaking out as much as I thought I would, but it's still like they're saying it's going so well and then it's gone. So it's like my thing is more on the positive side, like, like how you just reacted, but at the same time I also have a little bit of, well, what's actually going on then? Is it going well or is it not? So.
Yeah, and especially if, I for a long time had a feeling already that they have, there's a German saying, too many cooks, or I think the English one is you need Indians, not only.
We say too many cooks in the kitchen. I think we stopped the Indian one because people got upset, but that was something we said. Too many chiefs. Too many chiefs, not enough Indians, or something, I think is what we would say.
Yeah, and I think there's the structure is. They grew so much, and I've been part of growing companies and growing organizations, and at some point you start to step on your own toes, and maybe that's the other thing. Maybe the whole thing started to get uncontrolled. They have to catch some parts. I hope that's the reason they have to catch some part, because we see it in the ship pipelines. Remember the day of the dogs when it came to new ships coming out. How much of a hassle. And then at one point they obviously sat down, and you can think about John Grew what you want. But since he is basically head of the ship pipeline, this thing really ticks.
Mm-hmm.
It's really for my feeling, it's really like step by step, and things can push through, and it's pretty clear that somebody is there looking at the stuff and holding stuff back if it's not good, pushing it forward if it's good. I personally don't think they did a good job on the Banu things, because to me it looks a lot too much like the Vandu. It's all a bit of the same design language, but you can actually see that they want to get it right. And I think that's the same thing with the Prowler now. They really want to get the design language of that alien race right, and they communicate it. And that's a good thing. They say, okay, guys, look, we're not happy with the Prowler. Here are some pictures. We really don't like it that much. We have to work on longer. And it's, Spectrum usually explodes, but Spectrum always explodes. Spectrum explodes when Chris Robert goes to the toilet. It's enough communication. They say, okay, guys, do it right. If you're not happy with it, don't force it. Do it right. Put it out.
Yeah, that's fair. Well,
I'm with you. I'm with you when it comes to why have certain ships to be out now. I own a Carrack for whatever reason. And everybody like, oh yeah, I need the Carrack out, and I was like, why? What should I do with it at the moment? Just do more little ships. Do stuff bring out stuff I can use in Stanton.
Yeah.
Because the Carrack is what.
Yeah, everyone's so excited for the Carrack, but you're not going to be able to do much with it. So I don't really get the point, but All right, Qualms, I'll leave you here, and we'll get Finds Lost, and now hopefully he's going well. But yeah, thanks so
man.
much for your call, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
Be good.
See you. Ciao,
Bye
ciao.
But before we do that, we do have a couple tweets that I mentioned earlier. So using hashtag ATC17, Zeus pops in and says, no content because of focus on Squadron 42, of course, which equals no progress on SC, I think he means, for 9 months. No content because of quality of life. Bug fixing equals one of the most broken patches in the last 12 months. Am I taking crazy pills? I don't think so. But I think you're also ignoring the fact that anytime a major background feature in any game, in anything that comes online, is going to have an incredible amount of bugs. I know I talk a lot of Escape from Tarkov right now, but it's what's fresh in my mind. When they switched to their newest like Unity engine or whatever they're doing, there was a lot of bugs on the initial release, and they gradually worked through them, and there's still bugs in Escape from Tarkov, right? But the idea of when major things happen that you're still going to get a lot of quality of life, I think that's where, again, it comes down to their communication, where they're telling us it's going to be great quality of life, but they're not communicating that, hey, when we put something in that has a lot of things that are a lot of systems touching each other and working together, that we're likely going to have a lot of bugs and a lot of issues in this release. They didn't communicate that very well, and they haven't communicated at all until after. Then they come on Star Citizen Live and go, hey, I mean, guys, when we put out something that touches everything, then there's going to be things that break. Well, I think it's better to communicate that beforehand and not after. But that's neither here nor there. So, all right, let's move on to the next caller, who is Finds the Lost. Finds the Lost, are you there, sir?
Hey, I am, thank you.
Welcome. I'm glad you made it back in. So, how long have you been a backer for? We'll start out with that like we've been with everyone.
Yeah, I've been watching it since 2015, but I jumped in with the Cutlass Red around 2016 because of the gameplay opportunities a rescue ship medic would offer.
All right, so let's go slightly off topic then. What do you think of the initial release of the ship?
I'm excited for it. I like the idea of the med bay. I didn't fully understand everything it was going to be offering in the mechanics wise when I initially backed. I thought more of just rescue, as in you put out your beacon, we come find you type thing. That's the way it kind of looked back then, 4 years ago.
Okay. Are you like disappointed, happy, or just somewhere in between, or just indifferent about whatever you're seeing now?
Well, it does go to one of the things in the roadmap where they're talking stability fixes, which they hopefully will keep in and actually resolve. It's been a bit difficult playing on times because of the 30Ks and the disconnects on the PTU and on live. The amount of effort there does hurt, and it makes you kind of step back. I've heard your frustration trying to organize stuff and then having to restart kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm just going to kind of play alone for now until things get a little bit more comfortable playing with others and a lot less issues with that. But like the last couple of days, I've enjoyed the game. You know, just going out there mining, it's not been too bad. Little hiccups here and there, but nothing that you can't deal with. So my perspective on Star Citizen is getting more positive each day, as I expected it to through the course of the 3.8 cycle, as things get a little bit smoother from the initial release. But let's get into the roadmap. What were your initial thoughts when you first saw it, and then as you've kind of thought about it a little bit, what are how are you feeling now?
Well, like a lot of probably the callers that before me and everything, I was disappointed on a couple of things.
Yeah.
The refueling was a big thing because it is a frustration. Why not just, I understand, you made a good point, or a previous caller made a point that they've got the kiosks coming, so why fix it? Well, you got to take care of your player base. Why not just put in a code that says when you've landed, it auto refuels, auto repairs, does everything for you. Don't have to use the menu. It isn't working right now, so we'll just auto do it. That way players can continue to test other things than that mechanic, which isn't in there, to make our lives a little bit better. Much, because it should be something simple. You land, you power off your ship, it refuels it, and then you don't have to deal with the hovering, because in some ships and some places it's really difficult. But going back to the roadmap itself, I kind of took a step back and looked at it, and in the past we've seen the mining delivery features to make money. I think the game has been shifted away from the PvE more towards the PvP, and that may be because they need to have Squadron 42 come out, and that is going to be PvE but PvP, because you're going to be fighting, you're going to be doing, they need the PvP element. We see the prison system, the
By
prison
PvP,
suits.
you mean more of like combat?
Correct. Pure combat.
Whether it's against an
going
NPC
out
or not.
missions.
I think some people might start writing in the comments, well, fighting against NPCs is PvE, but yeah, just trying to clarify that for you before we moved on.
Right, but they are aiming for ship fighting styles, the less group oriented, which you would think that would segue into it, but I guess Squadron's going to be more of a first person, one player
solo
aspect, which will
experience,
bring. Exactly. So I see this change, pulling things away that were more group oriented, more environment oriented, and making it more towards that finished game for the Squadron 42. And that's what I think that they should, like you said, come out and say, listen, we've got a game to release that's going to boost the economy of this and give us better, make us be able to expand, et cetera, et cetera. These are why we're doing these changes. And, they've been going so long now with the rollouts and everything. I think they need to step back and realize more people are watching Star Citizen, streamers like yourself and everyone. It's becoming more viable of a game, and I do enjoy it more. I mean, in the past, what did we do for fun? We grabbed a big Benny machine and hauled it across the universe because that was about the only content. Remember those days?
I never did that. I refused to. But yes, that was literally the only thing to do.
Exactly, unless we were fixing the beacons so that they'd be back on.
Yeah.
But, we do have so much more. We have a lot of exploring, a lot of opportunities for role play, but I do think that there's been a fixation now towards the PvP combat side of the game versus the other side. And I think we're seeing that in this roadmap.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's fair. And I think it comes down to, like, again, it's always that communication factor, right? Like, if they communicated more, I think a lot of people like put the pieces together like you do, that Star Citizen looks a lot like what Squadron 42 might look like, rather than in the future where Star Citizen is just in the Squadron 42 universe, but looks a lot different, feels a lot different. There's a lot more to it than that. And I don't know. Yeah, maybe being a little bit more open. Hey, we need these because Squadron. We need this because Squadron. Like, I've said in the last couple shows that I'm developing a hatred for Squadron 42 because I'm more interested in the MMO that will hopefully be Star Citizen, and Squadron 42 keeps getting in the way of it, and it bothers me. But it is the reality, and it is something I just have to keep in mind every time I look at something that is going on in Star Citizen. That Squadron always is lurking over its shoulder, right?
Exactly. Well, Squadron 42 will be the moneymaker, the gateway to get people into the universe. Hey, you played this game. Did you like it? Guess what? There's more.
Yeah.
Come to Star Citizen. But it's also the one that's going to be, you want to play a game by yourself. You don't want the PvPers, the gankers and stuff. This is a game that is just mind-blowing, amazing. Play it, have fun, and maybe you like to come over to the other side and join the MMO that is this.
Yeah. Now, I'm gonna be a little salty here for a second. Would there be anything in the game currently that you look at in Star Citizen or in Arena Commander that goes, this game is mind-blowingly awesome? Or does it just look mind-blowingly awesome?
I think for new players, they see it. A lot of us bitter vets, as they say,
Yeah.
just the fact, and some of the other streamers make this. I mean, remember when you could, go launch your ship and then get out of your ship and just 0G out around your ship and then just come back and board your ship. That's just, I mean, you can't do that in any other game. The fact that you take off from one place, go, and there's no loading screens, there's no this. They do need to fix Quantum because they do get frustrated with Quantum sometimes working, not working, that whole thing. But it's just that immersion of you're there, you're in a world. There is no loading screens. There's no, I jumped to Quantum and I get a blank screen and then you're in another place. It's live.
But do you see the point that I'm trying to make here a little bit, where all of that stuff it looks really cool, it's really immersive, but those are not elements of a great AAA game necessarily. Like the gunplay in with your FPS mechanics on some of these missions has to be really good and enjoyable to be up to a AAA level. The fighting within your ships against other NPCs needs to be really dynamic and interesting and exciting in order for Squadron 42 to be called a great game. All the things that you're talking about, yes, dude, I know, they're amazing. They are. They're great feats of technology. Games don't necessarily do things like this, right? And it's really cool. But at the same time, just like you said, there's a lot of eyes on Star Citizen, and there's a lot of expectations for Star Citizen. And that has to be understood too, is that it can't just look good. It's gotta be, It's gotta play really well. And that's something that I'm not seeing on the roadmap, but like you said, I'm not saying in the game currently, but like you said, on the roadmap, they could be working towards that with some of the features that have been added on there, and some of the features that have been on there for a little while.
Yeah, there's nothing. I mean, it's a step back in the first-person shooter gun shooting. I mean, some of the effects are nice, but there's no leaning around corners. They're trying to add those elements. I think that has a way to go, and that's a scary thought because that's just pushing release dates.
And it should be a big element of Squadron, right? I don't feel like Squadron's going to be 100% ship combat. That would be weird. It wouldn't make sense.
No, I think it's going to be a big element of it because they do have some really nice mechanics and maybe that's why we're seeing the tweaking to ship combat and a push towards that, because the PvPers need to be able to make money in the verse right now, and currently mining and delivery is the best way to make money. So they need to put in elements to push us to fight each other more so that they can get that data to tweak that side of the game more, so that will then slide into the ship combat.
And while I agree with you, I think those elements unfortunately are more on like the network side and basically just the network side, like not having desync, the ability to actively damage players from more than 200 meters from each other, right? There's like a lot of elements of typical FPS games that we are just super lacking. And maybe that's what Rainwalker is saying in Twitch chat, like that's what Theater of War that's why they're doing it. So, we don't see Theaters of War anywhere on the roadmap. That's another thing, and we'll have to see. Any final thoughts before I let you go, though, Feinsalos, on before we go to the next caller? Anything else you want to add?
Is, I think for everything they want to do, Star Citizen has to realize we need some group play. We need stuff to keep us happy. Throw us some, tidbits, things to make the gameplay enjoyable, so we'll stay in there and continue. Give us some base mechanics that we can at least get some missions, get some things for group play, because we're a community. We want to play as a community. If we want to play by ourselves, we'd go and pick up the game controller at a console.
Yeah, and I think you make a really valid point. Is there's a very sandboxy element of Star Citizen, and we were having that discussion earlier during my live stream today, that the more you see people make up their own mini games and have a good time, the more CIG tends to pick up on that and congratulate that. And part of me thinks that it's like, oh, well, everybody's having a great time, things are great. When in reality, I think a lot of the community is similar to what you're saying, and I know I am very hard on what you're saying, where I want game elements, gameplay elements, additions to the actual systems of Star Citizen that make us enjoy the game together, or progress in some way, or whatever, right? Just more gameplay elements. Less go out there, guys, in this beautiful universe that we created and enjoy yourselves doing whatever you decide. I would like a little bit more of in the world that we've developed and the systems that we've developed for you to play in, rather than just kind of go make screenshots for Reddit type of content. Or I guess more of like the Rexilla and Detox type content is not necessarily what I think a significant majority of the community necessarily is into. All of that stuff is very cool, very creative, and all that. Not taking away from them, but it's still I still want to see pieces of the game that bring us together and stuff. Yeah, very, very good point. But all right, fine. So I'll let you go there. Thank you so much for your call. I'm glad we got through our technical hurdles and got you in.
Thank you.
Yeah, man. Be good. I'm not ready for our next caller, so let me bring him in and change his name. Comi, what's up, man? How you doing? Welcome to Answer the Call. So how long have you been a backer for? Let's start with that.
Yeah. I followed the early, but I only back this last.
Comi, any chance you're on push to talk?
Hang on.
You're cutting out a lot. I don't know if it's Discord or if it's something else.
It should be better now. I adjusted the threshold for voice activation.
Much better. Perfect.
Cool. So I've been following the project since early 2015,
okay.
but I only became a backer last December.
Okay. So you've been now by follow the project. Would you follow like the roadmaps and stuff? Pretty consistently.
Roadmaps as well as the shows from CIG, basically everything.
So this doesn't come to any like major surprise to you?
No, not at all.
Okay. All right. So now, what are your thoughts on things here, and how does it make you feel?
Obviously, I'm frustrated, just like we all are, but I think most of us expected it to happen, so I didn't dwell on it that much. The thought I had, the first thought I had was, I remembered that 3.9 and updates after that had core professions on them, like salvage and NPC healing.
Yeah.
Obviously, salvage had been scrapped temporarily scrapped some time ago, and now NPC healing followed that as well. It's also temporarily moved. So that means that this cutting of 3.9 profession features means professions will be now pushed further back into the year, and that also means that there's a possibility that server meshing, which Chris said would be close to completion at the end of this year, server meshing could come in before some of the professions are implemented. And that thought, I was thinking about that because imagining that kind of scenario, it's difficult to know whether that's good, because emergent player gameplay will replace the absence of mechanics once server meshing is in. Or is it bad because there will be an MMO and people will join the game to play together, new players as well, but there will be not much to do for them and they will leave out of boredom? And I wanted your thoughts on that as well.
Well, my thoughts have always been this, and I've been saying it for a while, and which is why I initially had some like rough reaction to this roadmap. Like I felt like the sky was falling for my kind of streaming career and all those things, and I still feel that somewhat. It's quite disappointing. But after I thought about it further, I kind of reminded myself what I've been saying this whole time, and that's that they can't really build a game until they have the framework of what the game world is like that they're building in. They need server meshing. They need maybe a star system or two to figure out what this game's actually going to look like, how the economy's going to work, how much we'll be traveling, how far we'll be traveling, how we interact with each other. All those things require these bits of technology that they've been slowly working towards over the last 5 or 6 years. And the idea of allowing myself to get upset that they're not working on major gameplay features is, it seems like when I really sit down and think of it, it seems illogical to get upset that, man, my salvaging isn't here yet. Well, neither is your MMO or any aspect of what Star Citizen might actually look like. And while, yes, they now have servers that can fit 1,000 players in them, or thousands, or everybody into one general area. We're all playing in the same server. That's all well and good, but it has to start there and then build into a game, is how I feel. And those are my thoughts on it. Is that the focus should be on something like server meshing, and then maybe not focusing so much on the bigger elements of what Star Citizen may be from a gameplay perspective just yet, because it would require reworks, have extensive amount of bugs where it may have been enjoyable in something like 4.1, but then in 4.2, when server meshing comes online, which is obviously not a guarantee or anything like that, it gets incredibly buggy, is completely broken, and then we have an experience like we have today, where server-side OCS comes online and everything I used to enjoy is screwed and doesn't work anymore. And it's a bad experience for everybody. I would rather them build out the framework first and then build the experiences within that framework. But I don't know how game development works exactly, if that makes perfect sense. But it does seem the way that's the direction they're going in.
Yeah, I kind of have the same view as you. I think in terms of the frustration with the gutting of 3.9 and removal and delay of all these mechanics and features, I think to some degree this frustration will be eased off by Theaters of War, which is supposed to
I
be
hope
deployed
so, but I
somewhere in
don't
the
think
spring,
so.
I guess.
I hope
Yeah.
so, but I don't think so. I mean, I wonder, and I'll say this, if you've made it this far in the video, it's quite long into the video, but anybody that's watching live, how many of you backed for an MMO, and how many of you backed for some fucking mini game called Theaters of War, right? Like, while it's just there to take up space and allow them to continue to develop towards the MMO, Theater of War, it needs to be just that, just like a very slight distraction. It can't be. It seems like a waste of time to some extent to me, but at the same time, they're explaining it as something that will help develop the MMO. So I don't know, but I don't want Theaters of War. I don't care.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Theaters of War has no economic gameplay in it whatsoever.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Yeah, speaking about waste of time, or maybe waste of resources, or destruction of resources, or distraction rather. When I see so many people point to supposed the drawing of Star Citizen developer resources towards Squadron 42, I'm not even sure this is the case to the extent that it's blamed on, because I mean, you cannot speed up the development by throwing more people at it, by throwing more people at tasks. So I'm not sure if that's as big of an issue as people claim it to be. So I think it's I think it's more likely that players citing these as a factor in all these delays is kind of an inadvertent, convenient excuse for the devs.
Maybe. And maybe it's true, maybe it's not. But I mean, that's one thing we can discuss. But we're so ignorant to what goes on behind the scenes. It's impossible to have that discussion and come to any sort of conclusion.
Yeah, and then in connection to that, the final point I wanted to make is, like, I don't really care about single player. Like, ever since I discovered the beauty of open world sandbox MMOs, I've never cared about single player games. But here's something that I can't help but think about Squadron 42.
Mm-hmm.
If they had only started with Squadron 42 after Kickstarter and focused on that, and only started development of Star Citizen after completing Squadron 42, that might have saved so much grief among the community, and also that might have drawn in people like me who are not usually interested in single player in anticipation, but we were in anticipation of Star Citizen, the MMO part. That they might have even drawn us into Squadron 42 and saved all this distraction of developer resource.
Maybe, but
I can't help but think about that time to time.
Yeah, maybe, but at the same time, they wouldn't have $300 million and this wildly ambitious project. So it's like we can. That's another one where we can go back and forth on it forever. It's like a chicken and the egg thing. If they did this, it would be like that. But we don't know. And like if they didn't sell ships, if we stopped spending money on ships, then they would finish the game. Like, no, they wouldn't. They would close up shop, and there wouldn't be any game to play other than what you're playing right now. At least what I think. And there's a lot of things about the way they started out that I bet they would do differently, and there's a lot of things that they continue to do now that I bet that they would have done exactly the same. And so I don't think I don't know. It's hard for me to comment on that.
Yeah, obviously it's pure speculation.
Yeah. But at the same time, I think yes, people would be less upset, but there would be a whole lot less people. Is that fair?
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough.
Okay. Is there anything else you want to add before I go to our final caller for the day?
No, that's fine. That was my
perfect.
thoughts.
All right, Comi. Well, thank you so much for your call, man.
Thank you for having me.
Anytime. Be good. All right, and our final caller of the day is Novason. Novason, how you doing, bud?
Hello again. This is Word Salad Vertical Slice Guy.
All right. So, what do you think? How long have you been a backer for before we get started?
Not a problem. November 2014, so I guess 2015.
Yeah, like most people, have been quite a while.
Yeah, and then I was one of the salty salvagers, basically. The Vulture gameplay looked really cool to me.
Yep.
That was kind of my initial one, and then the combat was another point. So, anyways, this type of thing to the roadmap is kind of what I'm used to in this. But what I was hoping to do is bring a bit of fresh air, positivity to this.
Bring it. I need some.
Based off of how publicly traded companies, or at least companies like this, usually work.
Okay.
So for January, the end of it, this is usually the time frame that they do the review of the year, the 2019, to basically say, hey, this is how great we are. This is what we did. This is what we screwed up on, etc. With the gutting of the roadmap, it sort of removes shareholder expectations coming into the next build, essentially. So to me, what I think is going to happen is that after February 6th or 7th, once they've gotten all their public information out, we should see a new roadmap, and then hopefully Squadron 42 in a way more complete state. So that's sort of my positivity, hoping for the future type thing.
Okay.
Because they also took out a lot of the group play mechanics and stuff that's more focused on the multiplayer aspects and left in all the single player stuff. So to me, I feel like Squadron 42 is that big rock. They need to get it past the finish line. To me, again, a perfect example would be having a vertical slice that's playable by people. But I think because of the fact that they've taken out all the group stuff at this stage, because we're coming into the Q4/2019 review in like a publicly traded company. I think that's sort of why they did this now. And then in a week or two, we might have a way more positive outlook to the world. So I think that's just my point I wanted to bring on to this.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair, and it's obvious. I think, not obvious, but they've told us that this is kind of what they do, is they act this way, where they do their reviews and they figure out what their plan is for the next year. I like the idea, and it does make some sense about creating backer expectations to be quite low now, and then for the rest of the year they can kind of build up on them if they are able to climb over any rocks and develop something cool. Added on.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so that's kind of what I touched on that a little bit earlier in the show, like very early in the show, that it's a lot better to add things to the roadmap than constantly be removing them. So yeah.
Yeah. And then another compliment too earlier in the show, you did a perfect thing there. A couple of weeks ago when I brought up the idea of like shareholder meeting being like this simple thing that you just say, okay, this is what we did, this is what we didn't do. Yeah. And you touched on that, how there was that one episode where they just said, okay, here's the roadmap, here's the whatever amount of things that we didn't get done, here's why. And then they just go over what they expect to do.
Like a post on your website is not sufficient to something like what has happened with this roadmap in the last little bit. It's just not good enough. And when you have a show where you, instead of like this recent Star Citizen Live was, let's bring a dev on to develop some pointless fucking thing that's never going to be used in the game, instead of taking that and doing that, you could have easily done, hey, the roadmap's changing, let's talk about it.
Yeah, it's kind of sad that Reddit does a better job of explaining what goes in and out of a roadmap than the actual website that's supposed to be doing it.
Yeah, I mean, I'll forever be disappointed with their communication as far as stuff like this goes. I think they're making those efforts. Roadmap Roundup is a very positive step, but they already had the answer right there with a little video, actually speaking it with your words and your mouth, and it's a lot easier to communicate that way than having people read it and interpret whatever you write in any way. And then having a back and forth with the community is such a positive thing to go on there. You obviously take the questions that you want to take on that show. You don't have to listen to all the hate or whatever, and just communicate, man. And there's going to be a lot less issues.
100%. In 2020, context matters significantly more, and words do a better job of portraying what you mean. Yeah, because there's no more nuance anymore.
Yeah, and people are making comments that CIG is not publicly traded. I think you obviously know that. I think you're implying that in some way, shape, or form, we are the investors in Star Citizen, because technically we are the people who are what keep the lights on. So technically we are sort of investors. We just aren't getting anything in return other than their communication, which is obviously fantastic, and then the game that we get to play.
Yeah, so that's 100% true. Like basically the reason I say publicly backed is the idea that they have to reflect that model, because although we're not like true shareholders in the sense that we can just pull our money out if we don't like it or whatever.
But they have to understand.
It has to reflect. That has to reflect a business that's using that type of model. And
because that's how we feel.
And they do technically have shares because of the mergers and stuff that they did last year. But 100%. It's not a publicly traded company. That's a fair criticism. It's just basically that they reflect the business aspects of that, and that's why I expect, like, in the next week or two, when they do their corporate review, we'll see a more accurate roadmap to us, and then maybe some more details to what's going to happen with Squadron 42, which I still think is like their big headache, because once you get those developers out of that situation, you actually have a more clear mind. Plus, you're getting revenue from a different source other than just ships or whatever they decide to make for stuff.
And sorry for interrupting. I thought I had like a place to go in there, but you were finishing your thought. I apologize for that. Like the thing about like you saying that this is the way they should go about things is because they need to be more, I guess, empathetic or understanding that while we are not investors and we're not expecting to, gain a profit from Star Citizen's success, we do feel invested in Star Citizen in some way, and being treated like an investor is probably the best way to go about it. To keep the lines of communication nice and open and treat us like investors is it might be the best way. And they do that to some extent, but then others not very well. So yeah.
Yeah, no, fair enough. That was basically the point. Again, we're just with capitalism. You put your money into something and you expect to get something out of it in return. And we've got a very nice simulator. We've got a very nice way to build screenshots. And I think to the points of like no loading screens and all that stuff, there's a really cool thing here, but not enough.
Not what you invested in.
Exactly. Yeah. You want to see the end.
Yeah. So I guess Nova, that's a good place to stop. Thank you so much for your call. I think you make a really valid point, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. I always appreciate the show. Thank you for having me on. And hopefully in the next 2 weeks, I'll be able to come on and say, hey, look, guys, there's actually something positive here.
Exactly. So I appreciate it. Bring a little sugar to our salt, if you will.
Yeah. Well, I'm usually a salt miner myself, so it's good to be on the opposite side.
Thanks, man. Be good. All right, so guys, that will do it with today's show. I do appreciate you all stopping by here live on Twitch. So if you guys are watching on YouTube, we do this show live on Twitch every Sunday, most Sundays, I should say, in and around 10 Eastern time, and we do it on our Discord channel. So discord.gg/SaltEMike, where we do a lot of back and forth communicating in our all sorts of different gaming and I guess lifestyle channels, where we talk about what's going on. So make sure you guys check those out if you haven't yet. And the usual YouTube stuff. Leave a like, leave a comment. Let me know what you guys thought about the roadmap yourselves. And hit that subscribe button for more answer the calls, I guess. So thank you so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.